I've been the devil about all of my life, but I never seen hell till I met your wife, singing fi-diddle-I-diddle-I, fi-diddle-I-diddle-I-day. She was 7 years agoing, 7 coming back, and she chawed on tobacco that she left in the crack, singing fi-diddle-I-diddle-I, fi-diddle-I-diddle-I-day. Well, I'll tell you what a woman can do. She can outdo the devil and her old man too, singing fi-diddle-I-diddle-I, fi-diddle-I-diddle-I-day. Well, hey everybody, I wanted to do a quick show and tell. Here's this pretty interesting old banjo that I just got. This is not for sale. This is a customer dropped this off because it needed a new nut, so I put a new nut in it. Kind of an interesting peg head shape. I've seen peg heads that were shaped like this before, but these top tuning pegs usually come out way up here. I don't know that I've ever seen a banjo that has a peg head shaped like this and it's only got 4 tuning pegs and they're all down here. I thought it was kind of interesting. I'm sure it's probably not that uncommon, but to my eye, I just hadn't really seen that before. I think it's real pretty. And I don't know anything about this banjo, neither did my buddy who dropped it off to get it fixed. So if anybody might have any ideas, it almost looks like a homemade neck, but it's a real nice homemade neck if it is homemade. And all, you know, there's no fretboard on it, no fingerboard on it. It's just a solid piece of wood. It was real nice, you know, sort of cheaper banjo from the 1890s, I guess, thereabouts. It's got the little cut in there. It almost looks like it's a different neck that was put on a pot. I think this was put together from parts. He bought it at a music festival. He actually bought it at Clifton years ago. So it's probably some parts that somebody put together. But he had a lousy bridge for it. The bridge was real bad, and the nut was real bad. And his tuners, nice old antique tuners, but somebody had put metal washers in the tuners to space them out. And that's a no-no, guys. If you're going to use metal washers for something like that, they better be brass or copper. I mean, whoever had done this had put some ferrous metal, some steel washers in there, and they were covered in rust. And what that does is it digs bad into the wood, and besides doing that, the rust gets in the way of your smooth tuning. So you can't really tune very well if you use those ferrous metal like steel or iron washers. So if you're going to use metal, which I would advise against anyhow, better make sure it's copper or brass. But what I did was I made some little tiny cardboard washers that I had to make, because that's what these tuners originally from the factory in the 1890s or whenever they were made. They shipped out with Pippi, don't knock over my camera, honey. They shipped out with cardboard washers. So I had to make him some cardboard washers and clean up this, and I gave the banjo a whole, you know, cleaning and oiling. Did the best I could on it. A nice little banjo for what it is. And the tailpiece is real interesting too. Check out that tailpiece, y'all. You'll see tailpieces that look like this on the internet that go for $100 or more. Nice old tailpiece. I think that's really cool. Piece of cast brass. I think that's one of those $100 tailpieces that you see. So anyhow, like I said, I made him a new bridge and a new nut, fixed his tuners and cleaned this thing up. He also needed just some other adjustments and stuff. Not a bad banjo. Great second banjo for somebody. He ought to be happy with what I did to it. But the main reason I wanted to make this video is don't fall over now. Our friend Joe, he wrote in and asked me to do a show and tell on this banjo that I made recently. I made this banjo earlier this year, and I don't think I ever did a show and tell on this banjo. Nice little banjo. I made this for a friend of mine. He actually asked me, I went to visit him and I asked him, I said, well, what do you think about that banjo I made for you? And he said, well, your neck is awful thick. And I get that a lot. I like a thick neck, but the neck on this thing was awful blocky. So I said, I'll take it back for you and I'll thin that neck down. So I thinned the neck down considerably. Up around here is where he wanted it thinned and smoothed out and stuff different than the way I had it. So I did the alterations to this banjo and it plays real good now. Plays a lot better than how it was when I first sent it to him. My old mistress promised me when she died she set me free. Lived so long her head went bald, I don't believe she gonna die at all. But this is a nice banjo. It's a really old piece of maple that I used for the neck. You can see it's full of those ambrosia worm holes and the stains from where that ambrosia worm defecates all in the wood and stains it, and people kind of like it. But I like this old wood because I think it sounds better. Really old and dense piece of hard maple. Now the pot is an old antique peck measure, dry measure for measuring out grain and seed and stuff. And this was the bottom of it. It had a bottom on it, and the bottom had this metal iron reinforcement on there. So I kind of thought that'd be neat to incorporate that into the banjo. It's got a separate dowel. That's just an oak dowel from the hardware store that I socketed in there and got the neck angled the way I wanted it. And hickory, I bound up the inside with some hickory binding strips and ran this through a couple of end blocks. Really pretty cool. Simple. I have seen this done on early banjos with the 2-peg method like that, and I put a screw in there. You do see that a lot on the early banjos, but I want to start doing it a little bit nicer. I got to get my woodworking skills up, because I want to do that slot and the wedge, and so far I've tried to do that twice and I didn't really do it right. So I always wind up doing, I'll do a couple of pegs or 1 peg and a screw in here into the heel like I see a lot. But some pretty nice hand-carved tuners there that we made. Cherry, it's a mix of tuners. One of these is maple, 2 are cherry, and 1's black walnut. I gave him a black walnut nut and a black walnut bridge. And this is a Jeff Menzies goat hide on this. But anyhow, y'all, I don't want to talk your ear off, but old Joe wanted to see some close-ups of this old tack head banjo. Rye whiskey gave me this old broken nose. Rye whiskey made me pawn off my clothes. I'll eat when I'm hungry, I'll drink when I'm dry. If a limb don't fall on me, I'll live till I die. Rye whiskey, rye whiskey, rye whiskey, I cry. If I can't get rye whiskey, then I surely will die. Well, thanks for looking, y'all. We'll see you later.